Hello, demigods, monsters, and gods alike. Welcome back to the Olympus Report. Egyptian gods is some of the most talked about mythology in pop culture, and with each new incarnation comes different interpretations. Here's everything you need to know about the Kane Chronicles versus Marvel's Moon Knight. I want to start off by saying that in this video I will just be comparing the Kane Chronicles to the Disney Plus show's Moon Knight and not the Moon Knight in the comics. The Kane Chronicles and Moon Knight have both similarities and differences. Up first, let's talk about the similarities. In both incarnations, an Egyptian god must take on a host in order to enter the world of the living. However, in the Kane Chronicles, this doesn't necessarily have to be a human, as Boss took on a host in Muffins the cat. However, if a human does take on a god in both incarnations, they receive the god's powers and receive a power form. In Moon Knight, this would be the suit that either Mark or Steven uses, and in the Kane Chronicles, this would be the avatar form that Carter and Sadie use. In both stories, there is a duat. The duat is a world of spirits and magic. It exists beneath the walking world like a vast ocean with many layers and regions. However, we only visit one area of the duat in Moon Knight, the psychiatric hospital that's monitored by the god Tuaret. The psychiatric hospital pops up in both incarnations, but we'll get to that more in the differences. And speaking of differences, as far as similarities go, that's about it. So let's hop into the differences. Like I said before, the host of a god will have the god's powers, but in the Kane Chronicles, there's just so much more to it. The biggest difference is the existence of magic and the House of Life in the Kane Chronicles. In the Kane Chronicles, there's an order known as the House of Light that trains young magicians in the ways of Egyptian magic. And it's actually frowned upon to take on a god as a host and use their powers. Well, until Carter and Sadie change all that. In Moon Knight, from what I can gather so far, as Season 2 hasn't come out yet, there is no magic, and if you're not hosting a god, you don't have any powers. The way in which you host a god is also slightly different. In Moon Knight, a contract must be agreed upon before a god can enter you, and you're kind of stuck with them after that. But in the Kane Chronicles, a god can just take up space in your mind without asking, but it is possible to separate yourself from them at any time. The Kane Chronicles also delves way deeper into the history of pharaohs and Egyptian myths. As far as I can tell, again, because Season 2 hasn't come out yet, Moon Knight really only focuses on the gods. Okay, now on to the duat. Like I said before, in both incarnations, we visit the psychiatric hospital that is guarded by the god Tuaret. However, in Moon Knight, it's more of a retrospective of Mark's life and his traumas in his afterlife. And in the Kane Chronicles, it's just another part of the duat, and the mental hospital is actually for forgotten gods who have gone kinda crazy. Okay, now let's talk gods. Until Season 2 of Moon Knight comes out, I'm pretty sure that the two incarnations only share two gods as of right now. The first being Tuaret, who is the goddess of women and children, and is pretty spot on in both incarnations and is described as a kind, large hippo, although she was wearing a bikini in the Kane Chronicles. And the next would be Amit, who is completely different in the Kane Chronicles than in Moon Knight. In the Kane Chronicles, Amit was kinda like a little pet crocodile who sat next to Osiris's throne, the god of the dead, and ate the hearts of those who Osiris deemed unbalanced. She also loved Sadie. And in Moon Knight, Amun is the main villain, who takes on a host in hopes of devouring the world and any person who is slightly morally gray. And unless I missed it, you let me know. I couldn't find any mention of Khonshu in the Kane Chronicles, or any mention of Ra in Moon Knight, which is kind of weird considering they're the gods of the sun and the moon and they kind of go together, you know, like Apollo and Artemis. Well, those are all the similarities and differences I found in the Kane Chronicles versus Marvel's Moon Knight. I truly enjoyed both incarnations, and I love that there's room in pop culture for different versions of the same story. But did I leave anything out? Let me know in the comments below. And until next week, that's all I have for you, demigods, so I'll be signing off. And please, always remember to stay safe.